Good day everyone, and welcome to our channel. And today we'll be talking about dark patterns in design and why you should never trick your users. So without any further ado, let's jump to the intro and begin. Okay, so basically, what are dark patterns in design? Dark patterns in design are something that was initially kind of maybe not created by, but was introduced by Harry Brignall, founder of darkpatterns.org. And basically what he created, what he mentioned was some practices that involve users and try to trick them or being a mischief towards our websites or applications users. So, as Harry Brignall says, what are dark patterns? A pattern library with the specific goal of naming and shaming deceptive user interfaces. This is a quote from Harry Brignall exactly about dark patterns. There are several dark patterns, and they are also not only appearing in digital world. For example, when you have some paper from the bank and you hear them saying that something costs, I don't know, you want to take a credit card or something, and you read that there are really slow taxes or really low taxes or some other kinds of promotions towards this credit card. But then what you didn't look is down there's like a very small print that says something that's different, that's basically different. That's, for example, like it only lasts for a month or 2 weeks, and then you find out about it not before signing but after signing and after this period of time that was the promotion was going, and you are left with, for example, a credit card that has like really high values and simply makes you pay more money that you didn't actually know about because you didn't read the small print. This is also a dark pattern because it is basically deceptive towards users, and in this case towards the bank clients. And what we will focus on today will be dark patterns in design and mostly in a user experience perspective. So, what kind of dark patterns may I encounter during designing or simply surfing through the web? First one that we will talk about is 3 questions. And as you see here, this is a quote, maybe not a quote, but it's a description taken from darkpatterns.org. 3 questions. While filling in a form, you respond to a question that tricks you into giving an answer you didn't intend. When glanced upon quickly, the question appears to ask one thing, but when you read carefully, it asks another thing entirely. Basically, this kind of trick questions usually appears when you have some checkboxes to tick, or somewhere in the end of the form, when the website wants you to do something that you normally wouldn't want to do, so they write their question or the phrase in a way that you are simply make you wrong, make you think like you are doing something else, but you are doing something another thing entirely. So, for example, like we see here, this is a screenshot from flying company Sky. And as you see here, it says Sky may contact you about products and services you may like unless you click to opt out. So this is something I actually had to read like 3 times before I actually understood what do they mean. They mean that unless I tick this box, they will contact me about products and services that I may like. So this is not something that I have to click this to receive their contact. No, I have to click this to not receive their contact. And what else is here? When we read it, it says unless you click to opt out. So where is actually the opt out button? There isn't one visible, and the checkbox here doesn't says opt out. It says exactly that they may contact you unless I opt out, but the CTA, call to action, isn't anywhere visible in this page to say to opt out. So this is really confusing for the user, like whether or not should they tick this checkbox here, because this isn't entirely like not maybe true, but entirely understood by the users. So this is exactly an example of 3 questions. that may appear somewhere. And basically, if you want to avoid something like this, what should you do to avoid 3 questions? So first rule should be use simple and proper wording and phrases so they are clear to the user. So let's not write some complex stuff. We should keep the content of the website, the written context, as simple as possible for the user to understand it correctly, because not all of the users will, for example, be able to understand a complex technical language or any other like simply complex phrases. We should keep it simple, so keep it simple as much as possible. Second is avoid using negation while writing your context. So an example from there, like unless you click to opt out or you simply negate some things, and then you increase the cognitive overload to the user because he actually needs to think about what you just told him. The third one is what I in some ways mentioned before. Keep your writing consist. Do not increase cognitive load to the user. So if you know what cognitive load is, then great. But if you don't know, the cognitive overload or load is basically the amount sort of like information, the amount of things we might comprehend at the moment. So if you, for example, at some time found yourself that you are reading a book that you don't understand at all, or is using hard words, perhaps some technical books, and you find that you can't read it and you feel like your head would explode. This is basically like cognitive overload. If you have too many things that are new to you just in a short time, then you wouldn't want to continue with learning or with reading. This happens, for example, in schools where the teacher is continuing with the program too fast and people cannot understand it, and their cognitive overload is increasing to the point when they are actually not listening anymore because it doesn't make any sense to them. So this is also what you should be worrying about when you're with your website or application. You should try to not overload this cognitive load to the user. So this one way to do that is keeping your content, your writing simple and concise so that the user understands it correctly without having to think too much about it, basically. So that's it about the 3 questions. The second point of dark pattern that we'll be talking about is called Roach motel. You get into a situations very easy, but then you find it is hard to get out of it. For example, a premium subscription. So probably everyone right now, every person that uses the internet has some kinds of subscription. Netflix subscription, Spotify subscription, or LinkedIn subscription. We all have subscription, and we all know that getting into subscription is relatively pretty much easy. It's pretty straightforward, and the applications prompt you about it that, hey, you can join us, you get some stuff free. The first month will be free. You get a lot of premium stuff that you wouldn't have in a free plan. And you will find that it's extremely easy to join a subscription plan. But what happens then, if you actually want to cancel it, you find in some cases that it's extremely hard to cancel your plan. So for example, like here in Audible has some secret plans that you might get into by accident. And then to cancel those plans, you actually have to visit a website, and it's not available for you in the application. So you're using your application for everything. You can start your plan within an application, but to cancel your plan, you actually need to visit the website, log in there, and then go through a lot of stuff, a lot of pages to actually cancel your account. This also happened to Facebook. Facebook like pretty much hid the delete your account option, and if you wanted to find this option in Facebook by yourself, it would be pretty much impossible. And basically what you had to do was write in Google Facebook delete account, and then the first option was actually to delete your account. But finding it in Facebook was almost impossible. So it's very easy to create your account, but it's extremely hard to delete your account. And this is the same that happens in Audible. It's very easy to get your plan started and start subscribing, but if you want to cancel your subscription or delete your account, it is very, very hard for the user to do so. And why you should actually try to avoid this also. Basically, your user needs a freedom to choose what he basically wants. So if he wants to delete his account, he should be able to do so without many obstacles on the way. And he should have an easy access to all functionalities. If the user wants to cancel, he will do it anyway. basically. If the user wants to cancel his plan, he will do it. If he will do it next month, because you will prevent him from doing so by many obstacles, and he will be late for the payment. I mean, you will, for example, like charge him, and because he didn't make it in time to delete his account or cancel subscription, he will do it next month. But what will happen, he will probably never again use your app anymore. He will choose someone else because he will have like very bad memories of you, because it was extremely hard for him to cancel his plan because of many reasons. Maybe he wanted a break, for example, for a month or two, because he knew that he wouldn't use your app. So basically he will just cancel it, but then come back. If he will be prevented from doing so, okay, then he will pay you for another month, but then he will never use your app again and basically go to the competition. So we should always give user possibilities to choose what he wants, give him freedom to do what he wants. And for example, there are some great things you can do about subscriptions like that. For example, some applications actually prompt user by email, sending him that, hey, in 2 days your free plan will end and we will charge you. So we of course would love you to stay, but if you want to cancel your plan, here's a button to do so. And then user, if he wants to cancel, then he will probably cancel anyway, but he will remember it, that it was a great user experience. And if he doesn't want to cancel it, he wants to keep doing so, he will still very much appreciate that you told him about that. You give him a hint, hey, in 2 days your subscription plan will start and you will have to pay, and he will feel that he's been taken care of. So always remember to put your user in the first place and simply give him freedom to choose what he wants. That's it about the Roach model. And the third one is called bait and switch. So you set out to do one thing, but a different undesirable thing happens anyway. So this also applies to fourth rule of Nielsen-Norman's heuristics, which is concise, and standards. So if, for example, this will be a very hardcore example, but don't use checkboxes as you would use radio buttons, for example. Or like here, you see Windows 10 update. So what was wrong with this update? And it was a complete, like, very backlash to Microsoft for it. If you press the X button in the top right corner, and everyone would think like, okay, I will close this window and yeah, that's it. I will close this window. Nothing will happen. I will still maintain my PC as the way it was. Nothing will happen. I will simply close it. But no, what actually happened when you press this X button in the top right corner, it meant that you agree and the download will start and you will update your computer instead of simply closing the window. That is something undesirable, because everyone thinks that the X button simply means close. I will close it. I will not have to look at it anymore for some time, probably it will appear later, but I certainly won't agree to anything by clicking this button. This is an example of bait and switch. We do something that we think we know what will happen, but basically completely another thing happens instead. So as I mentioned here, we need to remember about Nielsen-Norman's heuristic, consistency and standards, and basically respect our user, because there are rules to like internet, the way we use certain things. There are design systems, atomic design, like or Apple has human-centered design. They give you some hints how some things should work, because that's how they work. And if you will do it like in a different way, the unexpected way for the user will be simply tricked by you, and he will definitely not appreciate being tricked by the application. So if people won't enjoy using your application, then they will probably switch to the competition, and that's basically what happens most of the time. That's it about briefly about bait and switch. There are probably many other examples that any of us could think of, like really using anything that's not supposed to be used that way, like I mentioned, checkboxes and radio buttons, for example. And the fourth thing that we'll be talking about here today, and the last one about dark patterns, is Friendspam. The product asks for your email or social media permissions under the pretense it will be used for a desirable outcome, for example, finding friends, but then spams all of your contacts in a message that claims to be from you. So this is something that's not actually happening a lot anymore because of LinkedIn. And yes, that's basically illegal. So this is another reason why, because LinkedIn did it in 2015. They were fined $50 million for it. And this is completely undesirable outcome of what happened, because what you don't want to do is send emails from you but pretending to be a certain user, because it's wrong and it's illegal. And second thing, if you actually want, for example, you want users to do something like with their friends or with their friends list, then don't send emails on behalf of the user. If you want to share some things with users' friends list, simply ask user to do so, and if he wants to share it, and let him choose to which friends he would like to share it, like share a new photo or share some kind of an achievement. Allow him to input what friends should see it, and ask if maybe he wants to do it. Not force, not send it on behalf of the user, because that would be simply illegal right now, because as you saw, LinkedIn was fined for it $50 million, which may be not that much, but still it's a lot of money. And then what after this? Well, I mentioned 4 of dark patterns, but there are quite a few more in this category of those dark patterns, but I didn't get into them that quite detailed, but I will still mention you what the other ones are. So one of them is sneak into the basket, which basically means that you attempt to purchase something, but somewhere in the purchasing journey, the site sneaks an additional item to your basket. That actually happens. Some of those things may not happen quite often anymore, because people found out about it. They mentioned this as a dark pattern. So basically some applications stopped doing that. But this happens often by having some checkboxes by ticking them, or radio buttons that you probably clicked by example, or were ticked on default, that you didn't actually know about, didn't see them, and you by accident added 2 items instead of 1. And this is basically what sneak into the basket means. Privacy Zuckering. So Zuckering comes from Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook. And this means that you are sharing more information that you actually intended to. So you thought that, for example, you were, maybe sharing only your name and email, but you were tricked to sharing your name, email, friends list, contacts list, and your photos, for example. This is privacy Zuckering, and this is the most common dark pattern that happens actually nowadays. Now, the third one is price comparison prevention. Well, this is very much self-explanatory. The website prevents you to compare prices. This is also considered a dark pattern. Misdirection. So misdirection is basically when the website is trying to focus you on one thing, only for dragging your focus out of the other thing. So if they don't want you to see something, they will focus your eyes on some other things. This is something that also happens pretty often. Still, next one is hidden costs. This involves any hidden costs that you might have not know about. One of them is actually, for example, taxes if you want to get something abroad. For example, deliver any package from United States to Poland. There is a tax that you should pay, and some pages do not inform you about this. So, for example, you buy something for $12, or maybe not $12, but for example $100, and you think, great, okay, I will pay $100, but then you pay additional $40 for the package to be carried by some kind of courier company, and then you actually end up by paying more than $200 because they actually added the tax on it that you weren't informed when you were buying this, or when you were checking out on the website. This could be considered hidden cost, basically. Okay, so the next one is confirm shaming. So this is basically making the user feel maybe ashamed to not click something, to not choose something. Basically, that would be confirm shaming, the user is ashamed not to click something, not to agree to something. This written in such a way that would make the user feel uncomfortable. Disguised ads. Well, basically, this happens very often on some sites that allow you to download some things. For example, when you are downloading some software and you see a download button, you press on it, but what happens is it wasn't exactly a download button, it was a hidden ad that opens you some ad. It happens pretty often on those like little shady websites, but it also happens sometimes on big websites of any kind. Next one, last one from this list would be forced continuity. This is what I briefly mentioned before with the subscription. So for example, your free trial is ending and you get charged without any heads up. You were charged, you were forced to continue it even if you didn't want to. Of course, the user should always, we think sometimes that users should know that his trial is ending. You should be aware of that, but some people are not, and maybe because we must understand, we must remember that a lot of the time people have more than one subscription and could have more than 1 or 2 free trials at the same moment. And some free trials are, for example, for 7 days, some are for a month, and others could be, for example, for 3 months. And users very often do not remember which subscription has how long this free trial. So you should always give a heads up that he will be charged in a day, or to not give him this forced continuity as a dark pattern. And as you see here, source is www.darkpatterns.org. This is something that you could visit and read some more about those dark patterns, see some other examples, see the Hall of Shame there, and remember about it when you design those things. We often have this, like, because of from business perspective, we should make as much money as we can, and so we do sometimes things that are considered dark patterns, but we should always keep in mind that this could actually be not the way we intended. So for example, we thought that thanks to this we'll earn more money, but what will actually happen, in the beginning we will earn some more money, but after, for example, months or 2 or 3, a lot of users will leave our application, and basically we will not have a very solid base of users that we could work with. So always remember to keep those dark patterns away from your website. And also, if we are at this moment, at this step, I also recommend to you to visit Nielsen Norman Group's heuristics. Those are like light patterns. They are this is the light side. Those are the Jedi, so they keep the protection of your website. And if you actually take those 10 usability heuristics and keep it in mind while designing your website or your application, you can be pretty much sure that it will be user friendly and very much usable by the users. So I very much recommend this website. I always visit it when I am designing something, or when I'm at some kind of I'm not sure of something. I check if this works. Of course, sometimes you are not able to do everything, but should always try to keep those 10 usability heuristics in mind. Thank you very much. We upload videos every Friday, so stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for the next Friday. And from my end, I wish you a happy evening and goodbye.